April 12th, 2009, the Indian Ocean, roughly 235 miles off the coast of Somalia. Captain Richard Phillips is on his knees inside a cramped, sweltering lifeboat, hands bound behind his back, 4 days into a hostage standoff under a punishing sun. A rifle barrel is pressed against his spine. The pirate holding it hasn't slept in over a day, running on stimulant leaves and adrenaline, and his finger is starting to tighten around the trigger. 30 yards away, on the fantail of the USS Bainbridge, 3 Navy SEAL snipers have him in their scopes. They've been holding their positions for hours in 100-degree heat, sweat running into their eyes, waiting on a single word from their commander. The lifeboat is rocking with every swell. The angle keeps shifting just enough to ruin a clean shot. Somewhere in the next few seconds, someone is going to make a decision that determines whether Phillips walks off that lifeboat alive or doesn't. Before we get into how this ends, and how 3 men pulled off one of the most precise hostage rescues in modern military history, hit subscribe if that's your thing, and drop a comment with how close you think this shot actually was, because the real number is smaller than most people guess. To understand how a cargo ship captain ends up kneeling in a lifeboat with a rifle at his back, you have to go back 4 days, to a ship that was never supposed to get anywhere near the Somali coast. April 7th, 2009. The MV Maersk Alabama is a 508-foot cargo ship carrying humanitarian aid toward Mombasa, Kenya. Sailing through waters the U.S. Maritime Administration had explicitly warned ships to stay at least 600 miles clear of. Captain Phillips, who'd taken command of the Alabama only a month earlier, keeps the ship on its planned route anyway, believing that no distance offshore would fully guarantee its safety that year. That evening, several small boats approach and then turn back. It looks like a false alarm. It isn't. The next morning, a speedboat carrying 4 armed Somali pirates races toward the ship at high speed. The unarmed crew scrambles to respond with the only tools they have, a fire hose and a handful of flares, trying to swamp the smaller boat and keep the pirates from closing the distance. It isn't enough. The pirates climb aboard, and for the first time in nearly 200 years, an American flagged ship has been successfully boarded by pirates on the open ocean. Phillips orders most of his crew to lock themselves inside the engine room while he stays exposed on the bridge, trying to buy time and keep the pirates focused on him instead of the rest of his men. Down below, Chief Engineer Mike Perry shuts the ship's systems down, stripping the pirates of any real control over the vessel they've just seized. The crew manages to lure one of the 4 pirates, Abdulwali Muses, into the engine room, where they overpower him, stabbing him in the hand during the struggle and holding him captive for roughly 12 hours. For a moment, it looks like the crew might flip the entire situation around. They try to trade Muse for Phillips, lowering a lifeboat into the water to make the exchange happen. The pirates take the deal on paper. Muse gets handed back to his men. But instead of releasing Phillips as agreed, the 4 Somalis climb into the lifeboat with him and shove off from the Alabama, taking their one remaining hostage out onto open water. Phillips is now alone with 4 armed, increasingly desperate men in a covered fiberglass lifeboat, barely big enough to stand in, with the nearest American help still hours away and no way of knowing how any of this ends. The USS Bainbridge arrives the following day and begins tracking the lifeboat, establishing a perimeter around it to cut off any chance of the pirates linking up with a larger mothership offshore. For the moment, they're boxed in. Boxed in doesn't mean safe, not for Phillips, and not for anyone trying to get him out alive. On April 10th, Phillips notices a lapse in his captor's attention and goes over the side, swimming as hard as he can toward the Bainbridge. It's a serious gamble. If he doesn't close the distance before the pirates react, there's nowhere left to hide in open water. They spot him almost immediately, open fire with their AK-47s, and drag him back into the lifeboat before he gets anywhere close to safety. Conditions inside that boat keep deteriorating by the hour. Temperatures climb past 100 degrees with no ventilation to speak of. There's no working sanitation, barely any food or water left. And the pirates are chewing cat, a stimulant leaf that keeps them awake but makes them more paranoid and erratic with every passing hour. The longer this drags on, the higher the odds that someone inside that boat, out of panic, exhaustion, or simple desperation, makes the one decision that gets Phillips killed before help ever arrives. On April 11th, there's a shift. One pirate agrees to come aboard the Bainbridge to begin negotiating Phillips's release, and the remaining 3 agree to let the destroyer take the lifeboat under tow, rather than keep drifting on their own. For a moment, it looks like this might actually resolve through negotiation instead of force. That same afternoon, a team of Navy SEALs parachutes into the operating area and is brought aboard the Bainbridge, taking up position on the fantail, with rifles trained on the lifeboat, now trailing 25 to 30 yards behind the ship. They hold there through the punishing heat, while the negotiation drags on hour after hour without any real resolution in sight. By Easter Sunday, April 12th, Commander Frank Castellano is out of patience. Reports reach him that one of the pirates has his rifle pressed directly against Phillips's back, and with winds picking up and tensions inside that boat spiking by the hour, Castellano decides that waiting any longer isn't an option anymore. With authorization already secured from higher command, he gives the order. The moment a clean, simultaneous shot presents itself, take it. This is where we came in. Phillips on his knees, a rifle against his spine. 3 snipers holding their breath 30 yards away, waiting for a window that might not come twice. The window opens fast. 2 of the pirates are visible through the lifeboat's small windows. The third is only partially exposed, just enough to make the shot possible. All 3 snipers fire within the same fraction of a second, timed so precisely that no gunman has time to react to another's death and pull his own trigger first. All 3 pirates are killed instantly, each shot placed with a margin for error that, on a rocking boat at that range, left almost none. Phillips is pulled from the lifeboat unharmed after 5 days as a hostage. Abduwali Muse, the 4th pirate and the group's leader, is already aboard the Bainbridge at the time, having gone over earlier to negotiate and get treatment for the stab wound from the engine room struggle days before. He's taken into custody on the spot, still unaware his 3 partners are already dead. Muse is flown back to the United States to face trial, becoming the first person prosecuted for piracy on the high seas in an American court in more than a century. He eventually pleads guilty to hijacking, kidnapping, and hostage-taking, and in 2011, he's sentenced to just under 34 years in federal prison. Phillips returns to his family in Vermont, who had been waiting through all 5 days of the ordeal, not knowing if he'd come home at all. And within weeks, his story is already being optioned for a book and a film. His memoir, A Captain's Duty, is published in 2010, and 3 years later, Tom Hanks plays him in Captain Phillips, turning this 5-day standoff into one of the most recognized Navy SEAL operations of the decade. Not everyone who lived through it tells the story the same way. More than half the Alabama's crew later sue Phillips, Maersk, and the ship's operator, alleging he ignored repeated warnings and pushed the ship within 250 miles of the Somali coast. Well inside the 600-mile buffer the Maritime Administration had recommended just days before. In depositions, Phillips testifies that he never believed any distance offshore would have made the ship truly safe that year. The lawsuit is eventually settled out of court, the terms never made public. What isn't disputed is what happened on that fantail. 3 snipers firing in the same instant in rolling seas at a target 30 yards out ended a 5-day hostage crisis in under 2 seconds without a single round landing anywhere near the man they were sent to save. The bullet-scarred lifeboat now sits in the National Navy UDT SEAL Museum in Fort Pierce, Florida. The holes from that morning still visible in the fiberglass beside the rifle that made them. Richard Phillips went out to sea as a cargo ship captain. He came home as proof that a shot like that wasn't just possible, it had already been made.